I chose to base my vocabulary and assessment presentation on second grade learning standards. The assessment I will review is the Maze test, which is used for children ages 7 and older. So moving on to the next slide and looking at standards addressed by this assessment, which include ELA literacy L.1.4 and L.2.5, that say determine or clarify the meaning of unknown and multiple meaning words and phrases based on grade 1 reading and content, choosing flexibly from an array of strategies, and ELA literacy L.4.6 and L.5.6, acquire and use accurately grade appropriate general academic and domain specific words and phrases, including those that signal contrast, addition, and other logical relationships, such as however, although, nevertheless, similarly, moreover, in addition. Looking further at the Maze test as it connects to second grade standards found under ELA literacy L.2.5, you would identify real-life connections between words and their use, such as describing foods that are spicy or juicy, and distinguish shades of meaning among closely related verbs toss, throw, hurl, and closely related adjectives such as thin, slender, skinny, or scrawny. The purpose of the assessment is basically the same in purpose and format as the closed test, with one major difference. Children are given passages set up in the same way as the closed test, but there are 3 different choices for students to choose from for each blank, which is helpful in reducing student stress. It also uses a different scoring scale than the closed test. Maze is a group-administered assessment used as a benchmark for students in reading. It's quick, easy to administer, and gives reliable data to determine student reading levels. Students must be monitoring the general meaning of the passage to choose the correct response, so this tool does measure comprehension and vocabulary. Maze assessments can also be used along with CBM fluency measures or by themselves. Materials needed for these tests based on the textbook example are mainly based on nonfiction and core subject area textbooks because of the relatively high frequency of unusual words, the directions for the Maze administration, Maze passages, and the scoring keys. This is just an example of what a Maze reading passage would look like. You can see the 3 words that the students can choose from. So for the assessment procedure, you would follow the same steps in creating Maze passages just described for creating modified closed passages, but you would offer 3 word choices for replacing the deleted word, including the correct word, an incorrect word that's the same part of speech, and an incorrect word that is a different part of speech. Maze passages should be administered from each textbook passage as recommended. After reviewing evidence-based research as well as the Common Core fundamental skills for reading fluency, you would put together a classroom profile for your use to summarize vocabulary skill development for each student. Maze is administered individually or as a group 3 times a year and follows the same assessment periods as the elementary Dibbles measure. The Maze raw score is simply the average number of correct responses for the 2 passages. The risk levels are general indicators of the chances the student is making adequate progress toward grade level expectations. They also indicate the amount of instruction a student should receive. Students who score in the high risk range need intensive intervention that includes explicit and systemic instruction. Students scoring in the moderate risk range need a strategic intervention or supplemental instruction in the form of more practice and teacher support. And students that score in the low risk range should be successful using a regular classroom curriculum without needing special instructional considerations. One assessment shouldn't be the deciding factor when making decisions about students' instructional plans. Teachers should look at more than one source of data when determining curriculum and instruction for any student. So now moving on to strategies that help to increase vocabulary development, I chose to look at Wordwalls, which are basically used in an age range of 5 to 17 years. Standards met by this strategy include ELA literacy L.1.5, which we previously addressed when looking at the Maze assessments, and ELA literacy L.2.5. Looking at Wordwalls and how they connect with second grade standards, these areas are incorporated in ELA literacy L.2.5, demonstrate understanding of word relationships and nuances in word meanings. And students would, again, identify real-life connections between words and their use, such as describing foods that are spicy or juicy, and distinguish shades of meaning among closely related verbs such as toss, throw, and hurl, and closely related adjectives such as thin, slender, skinny, and scrawny. Instructional purpose of Wordwaltz: they are a common feature in elementary classrooms that usually serve 2 different purposes: providing a space where students can practice word identification skills like decoding, regarding high-frequency words, and as a tool for word recognition, such as understanding word meanings and concepts. The focus related to the purpose of Wordwalls in Chapter 7 of our textbook is to help students strengthen their understanding of new vocabulary and concepts, which is mainly achieved using word sorts to help students connect new words and concepts to those they already know through instructional conversation and writing activities. Generally, word wall activities involve the teacher introducing, posting, and leading conversations about important Tier 2 and Tier 3 words on a section of a wall, a pocket chart, or an easel, or a bulletin board. Students should also have copies of words from the word wall at their desks for sorting and writing activities. These words are categorized and sorted in a way that will help students understand their various meanings depending on the context. It's very important that any word wall lets words be easily moved, grouped, or removed. So materials needed for this include a pocket chart, an easel, a blank section of a classroom wall, or a blank bulletin board. Cardstock approximately 5 by 8 inches each for writing individual words, and longer pieces for sentence strips. You would need to use either Velcro or tape for attaching the words in a way that would allow students to move the words for the activities that follow. Black markers for the dry erase boards, text and supplemental readings for your required unit of study, and a list of vocabulary that you would plan to target. So moving on to the next slide, I'm just going to summarize these the best as I can because they actually would be a little long otherwise. For teaching procedures, these following steps are a good way to begin using word walls. Try to use group-generated word walls where teachers and students work together at least partially to choose the words that go on the wall. Ask students to work in their groups identifying 3 to 5 words in the text selection that are known words, familiar words, which are words they've heard before but don't know well, and unknown words, words they've never heard before or don't know what they mean. Ask each group to write these 3 word types on a sheet of paper and be ready to share their findings with the class. Ask each group to take turns sharing and discussing their words with the class. After groups have finished their presentations, ask the students to help identify words that should go on a master list or group-generated word wall. Help students notice words they had in common by underlining or circling them. The first words to go on the word wall should be ones that 2 or more groups had in common. So looking at other tips to make word walls work in the classroom, make them memorable by using favorite chant songs or stories as a context for pulling keywords for your walls. Make them useful by using word walls to spell high-frequency words during modeled writing, to generate correct spelling when writing aloud, or to decode a masked word in a text. Make them practical by incorporating word walls into daily wordplay activities, such as making word ladders, word sorts, and word hunts. Make them hands-on by attaching keywords to Velcro strips or sticky tack. Make them space efficient by using 3-panel display boards, as they don't use any wall space and can be easily moved around the room. Make them your way that works for your students. Be creative and trust your personal observations when creating a word wall for your classroom. Know that if your students are using the word wall to strengthen their reading and writing skills, you're doing word walls the right way. So I just included a video at the end of this that is a Jack Hartman video that is a 2nd grade sight word review that I would use as part of this lesson. So just one moment, and I'm going to play this video that I would share with a 2nd grade class if I were working on sight words or high frequency words.
Jack Hartman! Kids Music Channel!
Sight words, I've learned a lot. Sight words, I'm never gonna stop. Keep on learning, it's fun to do. Get ready, get set for the sight word review. Say the sight words before me. Always. Around. Because. Been. Before. Best. Both. By. Call. Cold. Does. Don't. Five. Found. Gave. Goes. Green. It's. Made. Many. Off. Sight words, I've learned a lot. Sight words, I'm never gonna stop.
Okay, so I'm just going to pause that there because I think that that gives a general idea of what this video would offer second grade students as far as understanding sight words in a way that is engaging. So moving on to my final slide, if it'll let me move past the song. There we go. Onto my reference page, I just looked at an article called May's Frequently Asked Questions, and I included the website for this resource. I included our textbook, of course, in the resources, and I looked at the article Wordwalls That Work from Scholastic, and I included the link for this as well. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.